Show me the data. Data-based decision-making in secondary settings. We all know it is challenging to implement response to instruction and intervention, or RTI, models in secondary settings. However, while challenging, it is not impossible. An RTI model can be helpful for teachers to improve their instruction, differentiate instruction in flexible groups, and monitor the progress of students over time. Students also benefit because instruction is delivered to them at their instructional level, so it reduces frustration and boredom from material that is too difficult or too easy. One important component of RTI is data-based decision-making. Teachers should be collecting data, evaluating it, and making instructional decisions based on their data. One way to facilitate this in secondary schools is to use a professional learning committee, or PLC. PLC meetings can occur during teacher planning periods. Teachers meet in a PLC on a regular basis to discuss student progress, academic data, and how to alter their instruction to meet the needs of the students. Data team meetings should occur every 2 weeks. However, monthly meetings may be more feasible in your school district. Derry Township School District is a public school district in Hershey, Pennsylvania that employs an RTI model at the secondary level. The teachers at Hershey Middle School represent a real-life example of using PLCs to facilitate data-based decision-making. In Hershey, PLCs are separated into content-specific groups. For example, all of the 8th grade English teachers meet to discuss student progress and data. These meetings generally occur every 2 weeks. There is no specific group facilitator. Rather, the group runs the meetings collaboratively. Before the meetings, teachers develop common assessments called formative assessments and summative assessments that are given to all students in the grade level. Let's take a second and define what these mean. Formative assessments are given before a unit to show how well students know the material before the instruction. After the formative assessment, teachers can differentiate instruction and create flexible groups based on how well students performed. Summative assessments are given at the end of the unit to show how much students learned after the unit was taught. Progress is monitored based on how well students performed on both formative and summative assessments. All students are not expected to perform at proficiency on formative assessments because they either have not been taught that skill or require more instruction to learn the skill. However, all students are expected to perform at proficiency on summative assessments. Therefore, progress can be measured for both students and the entire class by examining performance on formative assessments compared to performance on summative assessments. These data meetings, held at the PLC, can be used to develop formative and summative assessments and discuss student, class, and grade progress on the assessments. In addition, some students are already receiving tiered intervention supports. Therefore, their progress monitoring data from fluency and comprehension measures can add to the dataset. After a formative assessment, the teachers will meet as a PLC to discuss how students performed. They will be able to create guided groups based on student performance and discuss mobility between tiers. Students who consistently perform in the low range and make little growth compared to summative assessments and their peers may be suggested to move into specific reading or math intervention groups. In addition, students already receiving intervention who are demonstrating consistently high scores on assessments and progress monitoring data may be considered to exit the tiered support. Mobility between tiers is challenging due to the complexity of students' class schedules at the secondary level. For this reason, movement between tiers typically happens at the end of a semester. Nevertheless, this data can help teachers create guided groups in their classroom and allow them to differentiate instruction more frequently, which is more feasible in a secondary setting than physically changing the student's placement. After PLC meetings, teachers are responsible for differentiating instruction moving forward. They may also provide additional support during alternative times of the day, such as during flexible periods or study hall periods. During the PLC meetings, teachers can share strategies for how to differentiate and create groups with each other. They can also implement different evidence-based practices based on what skills the students are having difficulty with. In Hershey Middle School, the administration created a space to hold PLC meetings called the Professional Learning Lab. All teachers meet there for PLC meetings. However, if your district does not have this space, meetings can occur in a specific teacher's classroom, conference rooms, or any place that the school has room. The PLC meetings occur during teachers' planning periods. Since they only occur every few weeks, teachers are still able to effectively plan lessons on days when they do not have PLC meetings. Let's look at what some of the educators have to say about the PLC process at Hershey.
A typical PLC meeting looks like we come together in our PLC room, and we have a protocol where we talk about what some of our concerns or challenges that we had been facing in that day or even in that week have been, and then also we have a portion where we talk about goals for either that meeting or for that week, so that can help frame our discussions, so we can all put something out on the table so that we can with what we want to accomplish for that day.
We would have an area where we might, we have called data, numbers, results, findings, and noticing. So that data can look different, but like the latest one, we would have had results from our passive and active summative. We put the numbers there so you can kind of see how each class did for each person, and kind of look at our averages and see while yours were a lot higher, or my first period's lower than my fifth period, I'm seeing that with yours too. Is there a reason why? So we can kind of see if we're seeing some similar trends within certain classes or across the board. And sometimes we put these things we're noticing, because formative assessment doesn't always have to equate to a number or something or a percentage. It might just be like, well, we noticed that when they were writing that they were doing certain things. So we might also just notice some trends. So it's not necessarily data as far as numbers, but it's things that we're noticing. So we included that in our data category. Great. And the idea is that and the whole benefit of, I believe, going back to the PLC is that you're not in this alone.
Right.
So if I didn't have a PLC, I might be the kind of person that would reach out to other people, but if I wasn't, you're kind of stuck with your own data and what do I do? Or sharing that together, the benefit is definitely 3 heads are better than 1. All ideas, all issues, all problems get solved and worked on and improved because we're all working on it together.
Yeah.
Is being able to work through it. If you haven't developed that relationship, conflict can be a really uncomfortable thing. Where now we kind of conflict's over, no big deal. We have to work through that, and there are days where we might get really quiet because we're all our thinking. But we know enough about each other and what our goals are to go back to get to work through that.
Yeah. Talking with one another about our common assessments and how that instruction looks really, I think, is beneficial to overcoming obstacles moving forward, helping our instruction develop in a better way.
Use our own local assessments. We're fortunate in that we are have very much bought into the use of formative assessment, which is a wonderful local tool to really see where the students are. So what we try to do is ask teachers to pre-assess the students before they begin, so that they can really create lesson plans that are targeted to meet the students' needs. And then as that instruction is taking place, that we would use the formative assessment to determine whether or not a kid is mastering a skill, or at least their progress towards mastering that skill. And then we have common summative assessment that we utilize to really be able to determine whether or not the kid has successfully mastered a skill and if there's a need to offer some kind of remediation or reteaching. So data is very much infused in everything that we do because you have to be. If not, you're wasting valuable instructional time. The PLC time really needs to be focused on what are students learning, what are they getting, how can we reflect on doing this better, what might we need to remediate or reteach. So we're really trying to encourage our staff to go ahead and do that. So this year we took a different approach. We created a professional learning lab, and what was involved with that was simply taking a room and converting it into a professional learning space.
What can you do in your district to start engaging in database decision making at the middle school level? Here are some first steps you might take. You might consider helping teachers to establish common assessments so that teachers can compare performance of all students, not just the ones in their classroom. Encouraging teacher communication and collaboration is an excellent starting point. Once teachers are communicating, encourage them to use formative assessment data to drive decisions. Additionally, assist teachers and work with administrators to find a space and consistent time to hold data review meetings so they occur regularly. Encourage teachers to share ideas, brainstorm how to meet the needs of the students, and have flexible groups in their classrooms. Even without formal tiered intervention, students' needs can be met through database decision-making in an RTI model. We hope you are able to take some ideas from this video and apply them in your own schools. Thank you for watching and learning about database decision-making at the secondary level.